Hey Elise, welcome to Tradies Mentoring Tradies. How are you?
I am very good, Aaron. Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome, thanks. So Elise, today's more just an informal chat to get to know you a bit better, get to know Thryv, and then also see how you guys could help tradies moving forward. So just give us a little bit of background about Thryv and where it's at.
So, I've been with the organisation for 20 years, but as a business, we've been around for more than 100 years. And most
Hmm.
sort of tradies out there would know us and know some of those former brands that sat as part of our portfolio, like the Yellow Pages print books. The world was much simpler 20 years ago when I sort of joined the organisation. You could put some branding on your van, you could grab some business cards, and maybe just needed an ad in the Yellow Pages or the local paper, and you were set and you could be on your way. But over the journey, the world has evolved from SEM and SEO to social media to ratings and reviews to so many different things. And I think we are now heavily in a world of AI. So Thryv today is an AI powered marketing platform. Globally, we've got more than 100,000 clients that we do business with, and we help those businesses get found online. We help them win more customers, and we help them drive repeat business. So we are absolutely wedded to kind of supporting the small business community out there, and the vast majority of our customer base do sit in that sort of trades and services sector.
That's awesome. And I guess when you were talking about local pages and papers, I was a big thing for the Manly Daily. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
And I think it's really funny these days that the Manly Daily used to be a free publication that was delivered to every house on the northern beaches, and now if you want a copy, you've got to pay for
It is. I
it.
think the
Why?
world has absolutely changed. And I
Yeah.
think gone are the days where right across Australia, people were getting that local paper delivered in their letterbox each and every week. And I think that news still exists. It's just consumed in different forums today.
Yeah, yeah. And I, even myself as a business coach, I know I used to cold call out of the Manly Daily to all the trade sector. So it was quite a good
Yeah.
thing to have. So just talk to me a little bit about Yellow Pages, because I know a lot of older people know Yellow Pages, but do you think the younger generation are across that now as well?
So I think the Yellow Pages definitely still has a place in the ecosystem, and especially in our sort of rural and regional environments. So there are a lot of customers, and I think typically whenever a story runs that the Yellow Pages is going to end soon or that something's going to happen, gets picked up by sort of publications like the ABC radio in lots of areas, and you end up with passionate locals that call in that are absolutely devastated at the prospect that the book is going anywhere. But I think
Yeah.
back in the day, that was kind of the sole source of information for most people. Today, it's very demographically driven. So, as an organisation, we will absolutely make sure we put things like call tracking numbers in your ad so that we can measure how many calls you've got and what the ROI is from the other side of it. But ultimately, we know that the vast majority of search happens today online, and we
Mhm.
really want to make sure that we get our customers found absolutely everywhere to really set them up for success. And I think there's so many great tools that you can use out there. There's lots of free things that you can use out there to make sure that you really are building your brand and reputation online, because that is incredibly important.
Awesome. And when you sort of have a look at the trade sector across Australia at the moment, sort of how do you see tradies running their business?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. So we've just conducted sort of a survey with more than 1,000 small businesses right across Australia. And a lot of small business owners, it's all about kind of the reason that they started the business in the first place, I think is really important. And for a lot of tradies out there, it's the financial freedoms that come from owning their own business. It's the passion that they don't want to be kind of working for someone else. They're incredibly passionate about what they do, but it's also about supporting their family and supporting their lifestyle. So there's a lot that sits behind kind of the why that tradie took the sort of first leap of faith. I think the exciting thing at the moment is with the kind of advent of technology and the pace of change, and even with AI, it's creating a lot of opportunities for people, because I think running a small business is incredibly difficult. There is a lot of red tape, a lot of admin, a lot of paperwork, a lot of different things. You can pour a lot of money into kind of marketing and advertising. And if you're not holding a really great CRM and capturing every single one of those leads, even the ones that are not converting, you're really going to be losing money in the longer run. So I think
Mhm.
it's really important for tradies to understand what's available to them, what sits out in that ecosystem to be able to support them. But by the same token, I always think, what is that issue that is keeping you awake at 3 o'clock in the morning? And that is absolutely the first place that you should start. If it's a bunch of no shows, if it's the fact that you're kind of spending a lot of time following up on leads and not converting them, but find those kind of pressure points within your business and really start solving the problems there.
Mm. And like I think from a tradie perspective myself, I was a really good tradie, but I didn't understand anything about the back end. So when you're talking CRMs, people are going, "What? What's that?"
And ultimately, I think a CRM is literally just a list of every prospect that has ever come into your business. So you want to capture every bit of information. And I think so many tradies run around with a pen and paper. They might be out there in their ute. They'll write down someone's number. They'll follow up with that inquiry. But you need to go and store it somewhere and keep it somewhere. That is gold. That is someone, they may not have been your customer today. You may not have converted them today, but it's an opportunity to convert those clients into the future. So I think you definitely do need to be sort of storing and keeping a lot of that customer data. And the reality is, people actually want to be communicated with. They want you to let them know if you've got sort of special offers. They want you to send them a reminder if that's sort of leading into summer and you should be thinking about servicing your air conditioning unit. But those reminders are going to help you in the longer run convert some opportunities, but they're also going to do it at a much more cost effective way than just relying on things like paid search all the time.
And so what sort of advice, like, I mean, the trades kind of journey is pretty similar for most, right? They start working for someone and they go, I can do this and I can make more money for myself rather than making money for him. And so they go out and they start their business. And generally, it all starts with word of mouth. Now,
It
is that where you would sort of suggest having a CRM, or would you wait till a little bit later? When would you sort of see that implementing into your business?
Do you know whether or not you've got a formal CRM up front? You need to start it from day one. It
Mm,
may be an Excel spreadsheet of information that you've got stored on your computer, but that is absolute gold for you. So I think whilst it's amazing to have a CRM, sometimes when people first kind of take that leap of faith, they may not be in a position to be able to pick up every tool available to them. So I think if you're not in a position to be able to get a CRM in place from day one, absolutely do not let a single piece of customer data fall through the cracks. You want
hmm
to track everything. You want to track when you went out there and service the hot water system. You want to go out there and sort of track a lot of that information because it's going to help you in the future. So I think data is power for any small business, and I think it is going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to point out this thing that it does exist online, right? So if you've got that paper diary or that Excel spreadsheet that sits, in your log in your van, and all of a sudden you put that on top of your roof, which happened to me, put
Yeah.
all your contact details in it, and it
Oh,
flies off the roof and you just lose it. And you go,
you'd
oh
lose
my
it.
God, that's everything.
Yeah, absolutely couldn't agree with you more. So I
Mm,
think it is absolute gold to any business. So I think it is incredibly complementary as well when you look at things like word of mouth, because I think whilst word of mouth drove them in the first instance, they're going to be busy and things are going to happen and they're going to get a lot of other noise come into their lives. And then they're going to sit there and say, who was that plumber that came out and saw
mm.
me a couple of months ago? I've got another job that I need. So you really do want to make sure that you stay and remain front of mind.
And there's a lot to be said about magnets, right? The magnets that go on the fridge, even though the fridges aren't magnetic anymore, but they do exist in kind of that. When you said, "Oh, who was that plumber?" Well, if he's on my fridge, I can remember him. If he's in my CRM, or if you're in the CRM and you're constantly sort of talking to these people, you stay forefront of mind, right?
It's almost keeping that community. So I think people can think of kind of the online local community pages that they have that kind of in their local areas, whether it be on sort of Facebook or any of those channels. You're almost building your little online community. You want to make sure that you stay front of mind, that you stay relevant, that you're there when they need them. You want them to think of you as a sort of trusted brand. And I think it helps you beyond just the job. If you
Mm,
go out and do a job for somebody today, you should absolutely be asking them for a review tomorrow. And I think there's lots of power that comes from things. And I think even from a word of mouth perspective, people are still going to go and Google you in the background and check out those ratings and reviews and check out other things potentially before they pick up the phone and call you. So
mm.
I think it is absolute gold to any small business.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a guy today. I just jumped off a call with a guy today, and he said, "I've done my research on you, mate. I know how many reviews you've got. I know kind of where you're listed and where you're not listed." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's good."
Oh,
He's
it
looking at me as a
absolutely is good
potential,
because I think people want to know that you're credible, that you're trustworthy. And I think it's not about just having that kind of perfect review profile either, because I think people understand that things go wrong, but they want to know that when something goes wrong, how do you handle it? Do you
mm,
go on there and respond to the review and apologize that you're an hour late to the job and normally you're absolutely on top of things, but as a gesture of goodwill, maybe you're giving them a 20% off on their next job that they book with you. People
mm,
just want to know that you care and that you are going to sort of deliver really good service. And I think service more than anything helps set a business apart. So it is
Mm.
really important.
Yeah, and I think it's important to sort of draw attention to that. Even though you may get a bad Google review from somebody, but they do actually look at how you respond because everyone's human, right? We all make
Oh, I
mistakes and we all
agree.
have bad days, right? Or our team might. And if, keyboard warriors, they all like to go and sort of tell us when we're doing something wrong, but don't like to tell us when we're doing something right. So it's
Correct. And I
important
think
to what you brought
everyone
up there.
understands that.
Yeah.
Um, People understand that people are very quick at going on and giving feedback when something isn't perfect, but you definitely need to prompt people to go and leave feedback in every instance. Otherwise,
Mm,
you're going to get a very one-sided sort of review profile online. But by the same token, and I'm sure you have the same thing, if you're looking at going to a restaurant, Aaron, and you go on there and you see that the restaurant's just got 10 5-star reviews, no comments, no nothing, it kind of comes across a little inauthentic. Were they
mm.
real people that left those kind of 5 stars? It's not telling me anything about the food or the experience and so I think you want to make sure that when one of your clients goes on there and has a look for you, that it absolutely is a true reflection of what your business is.
Mm. And I think, and again, I may be wrong on this, but somebody did tell me, and I'm not going to quote anything here because that's not fact. But is it that Google have now picked up that they want people to leave the experience review rather than just, oh yeah, it was great, great food, great atmosphere, done.
I think it's all just changing in general. So Google are always going to prioritize something that looks more authentic and real
Yeah.
to start with. So that's naturally going to happen.
Mm,
But it's going to help you in so many other places because I think with the advent of platforms like ChatGPT and some of those sort of AI search platforms, a lot of those are kind of question answering things. So you go on
hmm
there and type a question and you get sort of some responses solicited back. The volume of kind of questions that you're responding to on a review platform, sometimes they're actually very similar to the questions that someone might pose in an AI engine. So it's actually going to help you get found in more places than just necessarily sort of the original source that you have. But I think for any tradie out there, reviews are absolute gold. And I would be making sure that as part of your process, you've got bedded into your sort of CRM system or just an email follow up or a text follow up thereafter that you are sending that through to make sure that we try and get as many reviews as we possibly can to support the business.
mm. And CRMs definitely help with that in terms of automating it as well, don't they?
They definitely do. And I think that's the piece for a lot of small businesses today that is exciting. There was a lot of sort of tools and tech when I started out in the industry, sort of more than 20 years ago, that you needed to be a big corporate to have access to a lot of those tools. You needed to
Mm,
have a development team to build things out in the background. But with AI and technology where it is today, you can set a lot of automated triggers so that instantaneously, as an invoice is paid, it's automatically emailing off to solicit sort of review feedback on the other side. You can set up a lot of those automated triggers to remind somebody about servicing or for sending of newsletters or different things just to keep your business right in front of their mind.
fantastic. And you've talked a lot about AI, right? So it's a bit of a confusing market for a tradie who spends all of his days on his tools, gets home, does some invoicing, and then spends time with the kids or the family, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise out there about AI. So what would you say for a tradie they should be looking at the moment? And then maybe things that they could ignore too.
Yeah, I think for a lot of tradies out there at the moment, the amount of time they're spending, I'm going to call it doing unproductive tasks. They're not
Mm,
necessarily out there on the tools. They're sitting on the dining room table at home and they're doing things. They're following up on appointments, they're booking in appointments, maybe they're responding to reviews, maybe they're sending out quotes and invoices, but they're doing a bunch of admin tasks that are not necessarily sort of productive customer facing tasks, or they're things that are pulling them away from their friends and family.
hmm
And so I think a lot of that now can be enhanced by AI. So whether or not you're using AI to even help you craft your responses to reviews, because
hmm
for a lot of tradies out there, they want to appear like they're incredibly professional and maybe they're not quite sure how to get that messaging across. You can absolutely throw the message that you're going to pop in there into an AI search chat and get some help in making sure that that response is slick and professional. So there
hmm
are lots of ways you can do it, from building out email templates to help you. You can even now build some incredible websites that are built at kind of the click of a button for a lot of small businesses. So there are some great tools out there at the moment. But I think I would suggest leaning into it, but lean into it. Find that one or two problems that you've got in your business at the moment and start there, because I think it can be incredibly overwhelming. But I think once you start to kind of uncover the art of possibility and what you can do using sort of AI and using technology, The sky's the limit. And I think, especially with the volume of leads that tradies tend to kind of lose along the way as well, from leads that come in the funnel, from customers that are kind of interested in something but don't quite convert, to make sure that you're harnessing every one of those opportunities. You can even get to the point of now scoring all of the leads that you come into your business. You can use
Mm.
AI to run over all of your emails to know what are those hot emails that I need to look at that are going to be the higher converting opportunities versus those that are just people sending me some casual reading material that may not necessarily be a sales lead that I need to respond to right now.
Hmm. And it's also a great place to help them articulate what they want to say, right? Because I guess myself as a former tradie, I'm very good at knowing what I want to tell people, but then to try and articulate it in a way that it makes sense to all the different types of people is a little bit tough. So when you're talking about ChatGPT and helping you to get those emails structured properly, I mean, it's a godsend in a lot of things, but obviously you've got to tailor it to your voice,
You
right?
definitely do. And I think
Yeah.
it doesn't replace the human being. It almost speeds up the process for you. So it can
Mm.
do some finessing in that middle part, but you do want to make sure that you're reviewing it, that it is kind of in line with your brand, your tone, and a way in which you would respond. So it's not going to necessarily remove you completely, but it definitely gives you that kind of enhanced power of being able to speed along and get things done much quicker.
Mhm. And so for the tradies out there at the moment, and then ChatGPT is quite a big beast, right? And I had my first lead book into my calendar from a recommendation from ChatGPT. I was like, yes, I've done it, right? But how do tradies get know? And I guess I've done a whole lot of stuff off the bat because of what I know. But how do tradies get known in ChatGPT? Because it's the new search engine, right?
It is absolutely the new search engine. So I think to make matters more complicated for lots of tradies out there, previously it was all just about getting their website to rank on Google. Now you're wanting it to rank in kind of an answer engine. So you're wanting it to be able to appear when people are typing in questions and
Mhm.
prompts. So I think there's a couple of things that really do help. One is having things like FAQs on your website that are questions and answers that are absolutely structured. Think about the top 10 questions that people call in and ask you, and make sure that you've got those questions laid out with really great responses, because guess what, they're probably similar questions to how people are typing into chat gpt.
Mhm.
So make sure that it's in sort of a natural language that someone would ask you, not a shortened abbreviation version, because it really is that conversation flow.
Yeah.
Keywords used to be super important when it was just Google, where you would kind of type in one or two keywords, but people are now almost having a conversation with that sort of AI agent.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure it's there. The other one is directories really do make a difference. And there are so many different directories online, but I would be making sure that I was listed absolutely everywhere. You want to make sure that when people are searching that you can absolutely be found. And those directories have a lot of trust and credibility in the eyes of kind of AI. So I would be making sure that I've got listings in every major online directory that's out there.
Yeah, and that was really good information. I mean, I spoke to Mark, one of your employees, and he was the guy who sort of pointed me in that direction. And so probably that's one of the reasons why I am getting listed on ChatGPT. I'm in every local directory. I made sure I got, listed everywhere. And
Which
my
is so
listing was
important.
correct.
Yes, correct. And you really want to make sure that you're also updating those listings, because the worst thing
Mm,
that would happen is if Aaron decides to take a couple of weeks off work and everyone's emailing you inquiries and they're just getting crickets back in the
mhm.
background. So you want to make sure that those listings are up to date and relevant with where your business is at. But you can also use AI to help you off the back of a lot of those as well, because as those inquiries are coming in, the speed at which you respond to them is super important. And I know a lot of tradies, because they're on the tools, they're not necessarily able to have
Mm.
that instantaneous response. So even being able to leverage some of the tools that are available to respond to those quotes and say, thank you so much for your inquiry, I'll be back in 48 hours with a quote or an update for you. I think giving them that reassurance that you've got it and you've seen it and it's in hand, and it may be an automated responder to them, but it definitely is one that's super important.
And that's really important in the days of people being so impatient as well, isn't it? Right? So they ring you, you don't answer, they go straight on to the next person. So there's no message from you, no nothing, and they go, right, right, we'll go to the next person.
I was going to say that's exactly it. And I kind of catch myself out doing that sometimes. You call the first person and then you don't hear back. And so you just call somebody else.
Mm,
And so I think making sure that people have a level of reassurance that you're now embedded into their process. There's a level of professionalism to it. They know that you've got it, that it's in hand. So I think people are super impatient, and that kind of goes to as well, even down to things like, and as simple as it is amazing how many tradies don't have a mobile optimized website, don't have an ability to be able to send through kind of a form fill on the website. Those things are so important for people to be able to make bookings with you, because I know I can sit on the couch at 8 o'clock at night and be sitting on my phone and I'm thinking about all of the things in my personal life that
Hmm.
I need to do. I'm busy during the day, kind of in my job. So I'm like, I don't always have that luxury. So I think making sure that when people want to communicate with you, that there's channels by which they can do it, and making sure that the experience works both on a mobile but also kind of from a desktop.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's super important. And we kind of like, I guess when I speak to tradies and they're sort of getting started for the very first time, look, they do have to have exposure out there in the marketplace. Once we've got them set up and they're kind of making sure they're pricing at the right point before we start filling them up with work, because tradies are very good at saying, well, I'm not making any money, I'll just throw more work into the equation. So they go and get marketing, right? But to start out with the very kind of first place, how do you think, or what would you recommend a tradie to start with in terms of digital marketing? Because there's so many different things. There's SEO, SEM, Facebook, Instagram. What would you say? What would
And
you
I was
start?
going to say, it kind of is a bit of a minefield now, because it's not organizing one or two things if you're a tradie. It's you're in a lot of places all at once. So I think I would definitely be making sure that I had a Google listing profile set up, that I'd
Mhm.
optimize the content on that listing, that I'd put my logo, my business cards. And I think that's the other one. You want something that's a little branded to you. So as you're building your reputation, people know that that's sort of tradies mentoring tradies logo and it's their color scheme. And so I think having that kind of consistent tone and message and look and feel is really important. But you
Mhm.
can set up a lot of those listings and a lot of directory listings quite easily and quickly at home. So I think I would definitely start with that. I would definitely set up a Facebook page. And the other one is the amount of tradies that forget to take photos and content and things like that.
Mm.
If you're out there and building a patio or a pergola or a deck, take some photos, take some before and after. They don't have to be professional photos, but definitely make sure that you capture the content, because that content is gold. People don't want something that looks like it's created from kind of a marketing agency. They want to know you and the work that you do. So I think
Mm.
the other one is making sure that you consistently kind of capture that content and share that content out there. Now, all of that can be done without putting your hand in your pocket. So
Mhm.
I think there's definitely lots of easy and effective ways to start building your brand before you then necessarily jump in and pay that initial investment. And I think for
Mhm.
every business, that moment is going to be quite different, because some of them need a certain volume of leads really quickly. And so you're looking for channels that are going to deliver them those leads. Others have got that word of mouth base. So they're more interested in kind of building up a long term strategy to be able to support them. So
Mm.
I think there are lots of avenues and channels out there, but there are lots of great sort of tips and tricks that you can do at little or no cost.
Yeah, and I think one of the you talked about there about photos and tradies not being so good at remembering to take photos. The before and after, especially the before, they forget, right?
Yeah.
But I also think those time lapse videos are really quite capturing, where people see you actually working and stuff as well.
They definitely are. And I think people also are proud when they get something done. So, instantaneously, not only are you talking to your audience, but if you're using, whether it be photos or time lapse videos or anything like that, and you're sharing it on social media, you're probably going to find that that homeowner is just as proud of their new bathroom that you've just installed. And actually, they're going to share it to their friends and family. So,
Hmm.
instantaneously, you're kind of getting extra reach and extra audience. So, I think you don't have to be the world's greatest photographer. And kind of with the time lapse videos, you can buy a tripod and stick a phone on there and let it just shoot away in the background. So there
Mm.
are lots of ways to be able to get some content that's quite easy.
Hmm. So, providing we can get their phone out of their hand to begin with, though, right, Ali?
That's it.
Right?
Yeah,
Tradies are like this and this,
that's it.
And so we talked about, say, maybe future proofing. So, and you mentioned a lot in there about before and after photos, but there is a lot of to be said around consistency, right?
Correct. And I think a lot of the time, and it's something I see with tradies all the time, they get that big job. Maybe that you're a builder and you've got kind of a really big house renovation that's going to keep you going for the next 4 or 5 months. You're very excited and you kind of get on with it. you then kind of forget in the mix of things to be posting, to be sharing content, to be doing all of those things, because all of a sudden your number one priority is doing an exceptional job of the job that you're on at the moment. But I think it is that consistency of branding, because I think
Mm.
over time you want to make sure when you finish that job that your next jobs are absolutely all lined up in the background. So I think making sure that there's a consistent brand and a consistent message, and just sitting down and having a think about it. Like, is it twice a week that you're going to post on social media and you're going to take a whole bunch of photos? You can reuse those photos throughout the year as well. You don't necessarily have to have brand new photos all the time. You might have some really great jobs and space them out over a few weeks. But I think
Mm.
making sure that you continue to build your brand and reputation is really important. It's the digital version of word of mouth.
Yeah. And let's talk about communication, right? So it's one of those ones where it's a gray area for a lot of tradies, right? And tradies, because they're so busy, they receive a lot of emails and they go, somebody's bombarding my inbox every time I put my name into something, right? But on the back end of that, then shies them away from sending too many emails to their customers or their potential clients, right? So what's a good mix in that?
Well, I think it's a really interesting one. And I mentioned earlier on the call, we've just done a really big survey of 1,000 small businesses out there, but we also did that survey of 1,000 consumers out there dealing with those small businesses.
Mm.
And I can tell you now the frequency that they would like to receive it from a consumer perspective is either fortnightly or monthly communication. They don't want you bombarding them daily. They don't want you necessarily sending them 3 text messages a day, but they want to be updated. They want to know what you're doing. They don't want you to be radio silent. They want to feel like they're still part of your network. And so I think doing that frequency, in a sense, especially with email communication, you're not wanting people to opt out of receiving emails from you. So that CRM database is absolute gold. So I think
Mhm.
you don't necessarily have to overkill it and over communicate with them, but definitely do kind of make sure that you are keeping them up to date in the background.
Yeah, and I think it's a big one, right? Because to me, I choose which emails I look at, which I open, what I delete, what I unsubscribe from. And I think there's that kind of perception in tradies' heads that I just don't want to keep bombarding. And I think, just talking about the frequency then is a good frequency. But when somebody wants you or needs you, if you're not forefront of mind to them, they're going to go to somebody that they search, right?
Correct. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you do stay front of mind. I think
Mm.
service is really important for anyone using a small business. So you can deliver an exceptional service and they can be absolutely thrilled with you, but they can quickly forget that experience. So you do need to stay front of mind and put some effort and energy into that self-promotion. And I think for a lot of tradies out there, I know that's the bit that kind of
Mm.
they're a little uncomfortable with. So
Yeah.
it's that kind of self-promotion activity versus kind of organically just receiving leads and inquiries in. But I think you can do it in a way that's quite humble, that's quite organic, but it helps you in the longer run. And I think every tradie out there is going to go through periods of time where things are a bit quieter and they don't have that sort of volume of work in the diary that they normally would. And being able to leverage that community and say, hey, for any job booked in the next 2 weeks, there's 20% off or there's no call out fee. I think having that really engaged community is something that will help you in the longer run.
Hmm. And I think it's also important to touch on that a little bit of the content of the email. It doesn't always have to be a sell, sell, sell kind of email, right?
No, not
And
at
I
all.
went to a networking event last Friday, and the young plumber stood up and he said, "Here's the things to look out for if your hot water system's about to go." And I was like,
Educational, I think, is
"Yeah,
by far the best.
yeah." And we're not selling anything, right? We're just telling you as the homeowner what to be looking for. So if your water system's like 10 years old, which is what I picked up, and he said, well, these are the things that could start going wrong soon.
Yeah,
And I was like,
correct. And I think that's the piece that you're helping your community out there, your kind of tribe of followers. So I
mhm,
think definitely making sure that it's not sell, sell, sell in the messaging that you're doing, that you're actually giving them tips and tricks and handy advice.
mm. And especially when we talk about something like a hot water system, right? Because you got a family of five, everybody likes hot showers, but especially in winter. And all of a sudden, that hot water cylinder goes on a weekend, and now you're paying an emergency call out fee and all these other things when you could have had it tested and known the problem was happening beforehand.
Correct. And you would
Mm,
be surprised by how many kind of jobs you're going to get off the back of things like that as well. So I think it
mm.
is really good to see that there are lots of tradies out there that are going down that more educational path to kind of build their tribe of followers.
Yeah. And so now that we've got the tradie, that young tradie, he's just started out. Now he's sort of starting to make some money. He's probably got between 2 and 5 staff members, and he's kind of maybe got an admin person. What would you say is next for them in terms of marketing? So we've got the CRM set up, we've got some presence online. What happens next? What are we looking at?
So I think for a lot of businesses, I always say don't put all your eggs in one basket, which can be hard because people don't want to necessarily have to think about doing lots of things. But I think you need a really great website to make sure
Hmm.
you've got that solid presence online. Now, from a leads perspective, today a lot of leads still come through from paid ads on Google. So it is one that you can turn the tap on and start driving inquiries in. But to the point that we have harped on about, if you're going to pay a lot of money to get some great leads coming into your business, absolutely make sure you capture and store every single one of them. But by the same token, you want to make sure that you're building your organic presence up as solidly as you can. So investing in both SEO, but also GEO. So GEO is generative engine optimization. It's what's going to help you get found in all of those AI search tools, making sure that you do partner up with someone that can definitely help you there. I think AI search is going to continue going through the roof. So I think it is one that you can stay ahead of the curve. But I think doing both from kind of a paid leads perspective with having leads come through, whether it's on social media, whether it's on Google, but also having a solid longer term strategy with SEO, I think is really important.
Mm. And I think it's really important to touch on GEO because that's the first time I've heard that today. Or no, and overall, right?
Yes,
So
so
can you tell me a
generative
little bit more
engine
about that? Yeah.
optimization.
Yeah.
So I think not only are we just optimizing your website today, so most people would know what SEO is, where we're going to do a bunch of work in the back end of your website to be able to get you to rank really strongly on Google. The world was really easy when greater than 90% of search was on Google and you could drive kind of all of your traffic there. The future is completely changed. And whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Copilot, there are so many AI platforms out there that you want to make sure not only are you building rank and credibility in the eyes of kind of the search engines, but you're building rank and credibility in the eyes of all of those AI platforms. So
Mm.
there's a lot of work around how you structure your content, how you answer your questions, and back end work on the website that can absolutely help you be found in not only the traditional search platforms, but also in the AI powered search platforms. And I think to your point, it's now is probably an exciting time to start dabbling in some of that search because not everyone is doing sort of GEO at the moment. A lot of people are
Mm.
still doing their traditional SEO and they're doing their paid ads on Google, and it can help you be part of a smaller pond, I suppose. But
Mm.
I think my advice to anyone is don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Build a really solid strategy that's going to help you in the long run. Absolutely make sure that you put call tracking or tracking on everything that you do because you want to know for every dollar I invest, what am I getting out on the other side? You want to be able to make sure that you're making really informed decisions about your business. And there is some super cool tools out there at the moment. So we've got kind of an AI insights tool that will absolutely listen and analyze to every phone call that comes into a tradies business. It will give it a lead score from 1 to 5 to being kind of poor to good, but it will help you not only measure the volume of calls coming in, but how many 5-star leads were you getting on the other side of it? So I think there
Mhm.
is a lot of great tools and tech out there to help lots of tradies. And I think the other one is time is the other burden because you can get incredibly busy at work, but you can never have enough time. So I think making sure that you lean in and look at options to be able to automate some of those back end processes is one that will really help you in the longer run because otherwise you're going to forget to ask people to leave you reviews and you're going to start to forget lots of things. So there are lots of great pieces of sort of tools and tech out there that can help you automate some of those back end flows so that you don't have to remember everything.
Mhm. And how important do you think is a sales process, like a documented sales process?
Super important. So I think for anyone, I would say not only just the transactional sales piece, I would say almost go a step back and say, what is it like to be any member of the public out there that is going to go and find me? So
Mhm.
jump online and go and search for yourself. Go and search for hot water systems or blown up hot water systems and have a look. How easy is it to find yourself? When I
Mhm.
find you, what do you look like? What do your
Yeah.
ratings and reviews look like? Because it's so often there's a lot of tradies that get busy in their job. They forget to go and do some of those more hygiene things. So
Mhm.
I think for me, going through that life cycle piece of saying, what is it like to be a customer in my business? How easy am I to interact with? What are the documentation and materials that my clients are getting? And what is that next step in the process that needs to take place? I think is really, really important, and one that lots of people do overlook.
And it's super important when you're kind of talking to a tradie who doesn't want to compete in a pricing market, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's really interesting as well because I think for a lot of tradies, they assume that the price sensitivity is the most important piece for people out there. It's actually service and then price. So
Hmm.
people want to make sure that you come, that you're clean, that you're tidy. If you action your commitment and say that you're going to be at the job tomorrow, people understand if something goes wrong and tomorrow morning turns into tomorrow afternoon, but communicate with them and be
Hmm.
really easy to do business with. And I think that is more important than anything because if someone has a really bad experience with you, they are going to tell a lot more people than if they have an amazing experience with you. So I
Yeah.
think service will always win out on sort of price. So
Hmm.
if you're not wanting to play in that sort of price game, you do have to really lift and bring your A game.
And let's be honest, right? I mean, yes, price is important, but generally people buy on emotion, right? When it comes
Correct.
to how you're going to look after them and treat them and how you're going to do their job is more important to them than price generally.
Correct. And I think for a lot of people, like if you're dealing on the domestic side of things, you're going into people's houses, you're going into their homes, you're going to be around their family, their pride and joy. So I think being able to make sure that you are going to go in there and be respectful and take your muddy boots off before you walk in the house and do some of those things makes so much more of an impact.
Hmm. And we talked a little bit about consumer trends and going towards ChatGPT, right? Anything else in 2026 that you think tradies should be preparing for?
I think the really interesting one is, and especially when we do talk about service. So, off the kind of report that we did, sort of 50% of small business owners think they deliver exceptional service. The vast majority of people that deal with those businesses don't think they deliver exceptional
Hmm.
service. So, I
Interesting. Yeah.
think you can always think that what you're doing is great, but I think listen to your customers. When they're providing you feedback, when they're providing you information, absolutely listen to them. I think the other one is just the responsiveness. People are impatient. So, whether we like it or not, you're going to be getting those messages kind of late into the evening, early in the morning, contacted over the weekend. And it is hard being a tradie. Like they're coming through on WhatsApp, on Messenger, on text message. Like
Hmm.
you are always on and always accessible. And so making sure that you've got a really easy way of managing that and really easy way of kind of dealing with it. And the other one is you want to make sure that in addition to kind of being super competitive or being a little more expensive and delivering a really great service is also having a really solid product at the end of the
Hmm.
day. So you want to make sure that if you're not going to be the cheapest quote there, that you are absolutely delivering an exceptional job at the end of the day.
Awesome. And a tradie, right? He's overwhelmed by all of the things out there, right? So he's going, I just have no idea where to start, what to do first. And I know there's a lot of, there's different people belong on different platforms, and some are on Instagram, some are on Facebook, some are on TikTok, some are on YouTube, some do all of them, right? Where do you think a tradie should start? Like, I know we've sort of kind of looped back around, but
Yeah. So, do you know what? You've got to start with where your clients are. So, I think sitting down and having a really solid understanding about who is your ideal customer. If I'm doing bathroom renovations, am I wanting to target the 40 to 60-year-old kind of female homeowner because I know that she's probably in a home that she owns, they've got the disposable income, they're not just your kind of first home buyers, but understand who your ideal customer is and really start with targeting those platforms. So in that instance, you're probably starting with Facebook and Instagram because they're visual people and they want to see your work and they're scrolling on the couch at night. But there are lots of really great pieces of tech today that can help you make that kind of world of social media so much easier.
mhm,
So you can absolutely have platforms that'll allow you to post once and will post across all of those platforms. So
mhm.
gone are the days where you've got to remember all of your logins and keep kind of your login book to make sure. You can absolutely use tech to be able to support you do all of those things. So I would definitely kind of encourage and implore people to reach out to people for help because otherwise you are going to be spending hours and hours every single month designing posts and capturing things and logging in and out of platforms. You want something that's quick and easy and that you can manage quite seamlessly throughout your day.
Great. And so we've talked a lot about sort of tradies and what they need and digital and social marketing and sort of systems and processes. So now tell me, how does Thryv help the tradies? What is
Yeah,
it
so
that
I
Thryv
think
does? Because there's lots
so
of CRMs and stuff out
there
there,
are
but it's pretty
lots of
hard.
CRMs
Yeah.
out there. So I think for us, we're all about helping. So we've got an AI powered marketing platform that is the backbone of our business. So we help tradies to be able to drive leads into their business through a multitude of channels. So kind of what we touched on earlier with
Hmm.
generative engine optimization, but we can help tradies with a website. We can help them be found on AI search. We can help them be found on Google search, on Bing, on all of the kind of major platforms. We can help them drive leads in through paid search ads, through social media, so lots and lots of different channels. But in addition to that, we can ensure that they never miss a lead, so that we capture the leads in the background, that we store them in a CRM for them, that we tag those leads so that if they want to email out customers around hot water service, you don't just have all your plumbing leads in one list. You know the services that people have purchased off you, and you can kind of tag them all separately. But you also want to help them drive repeat business back into their business, because it is easier to drive repeat business in and it costs you a lot less in the longer run than it does to just be paying for net new leads all the time in kind of that front end of the funnel. So I think there are lots of tools that we have out there, but I think the piece that I always say to tradies is it is overwhelming. Like I turn up to my kids' football and half of the parents aren't there because they're bogged down doing things in their business and they're not able to get there on a Friday night. So sit down and figure out what are those bottlenecks that I have in my business, what's keeping me away either from my family or keeping me away from the tools, and try and start there first as well. So I think if you've got a bunch of people who are inquiring about services and you're not converting your leads, that is a huge opportunity to be able to improve that workflow. So I think there's lots of ways in which we can kind of help tradies, but I think knowledge is power for a lot of tradies out there. And I would say make sure that you talk to each other, that you're sharing knowledge with each other, but you can also access lots of companies like Thryv and actually come in and sit down and have an end-to-end customer journey with us. And we can give you a lot of great insight and advice and help. And there's lots of tools out there, even down to free tools that you can get access to be able to give you almost that sort of digital health check online and say, how easy is it to find me as a business, and what are those hotspots that I should be focusing on?
Hmm. And I think it's really important from a perspective of numbers, right? So one of the biggest things that we do is we help tradies understand their numbers and particularly around conversion rates, right? So I spoke to a salesman the other day who's doing sales for for a tradie business, and his conversion rate's 37%. So I said, well, 63% of the time now, you're actually not earning any money for the company. How do you feel about that? He went, oh yeah. But when you know those numbers and what you can do with them is huge, right? So we can increase the
Oh,
sales process, we can increase the quality of leads, we can do different things to help us.
and what are you doing with that 63%? Because that's
Yes.
also an opportunity to re-engage that 63% so that they
Mhm.
become future customers. You know that they inquired with you around a product or service, or use that as power for you, and make sure that you don't let a single lead fall through the cracks.
And that's why CRMs become really important, right? Because that's the other side of the business that they track compared to numbers in zero. Or like, so you got your accounting software, got your job management software, which helps you with your team, and then your other side is your marketing and sort of the crux of your business, really.
Correct. And if you're in some of the bigger cities, it gets incredibly expensive just relying on paid search all the time. So I think you definitely need to make sure that you know your numbers inside and out, that you are advertising in a number of different platforms. So to your point, that you can figure out what is a good conversion rate for your business. But also for those lost leads, why are they lost leads? And I think
Mhm.
for a lot of people, follow up with people that you gave a quote to last month that didn't convert. Pick up the phone and call them and ask them the question. There's
Mhm.
knowledge is power for a lot of small business owners. And I think sometimes it's just doing a bit of investigating to be able to drive better efficiencies into your processes.
Yeah, and I always talk about qualification process, right? You also need to qualify if you want to work or do the job for the client, right? I think it's huge because people like yourselves are very good at making the phone ring, right?
Correct.
But are they the right client? Am I now going to spend a lot of time driving all over Sydney, for example, where I live, to now do quotes for people that were never going to buy from me in the first place?
Correct. It's
So,
so important to both understand your ideal customer, and sometimes it's okay to say that you're not a good fit with a client. And
mhm.
what starts out as a really exciting opportunity, actually, as you move through that kind of quote process, ends up working out that, you know what? this isn't the right sort of partnership for me. So I think that's also really important as well.
Yeah, awesome. Um, One piece of final advice that you could give a tradie at the moment, Elise, of what to look out for in 2026, what to be doing.
I
I
think
mean,
for
there's so
any
many things,
tradies
but
out there, I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to get into business. So there are so many tools out there at the moment to help business owners drive efficiency, drive lead volume into their business. I think for a lot of tradies just entering the market, you can now kind of keep up with a lot of those larger franchise groups that have got big marketing teams and big people behind them. You can have that really slick professional shop front. So I think for any tradie out there, I would absolutely encourage you to be inquisitive, to go and pick up the phone, to do some searching online. There are lots of great free tools and tips that people can get access to. You can absolutely jump across. So we're Thryv, thryv.com.au. You can come across and have a look at some of the tools that we've got available as well to be able to help small businesses. But I think for anyone, it's go and be inquisitive and spend a little bit of time on your business. Don't always be just busy working in your business or responding to customer quotes. Sometimes, to your point, you've got to sit down and understand what is that sales process that a customer goes through. What am I converting all my leads at? Because I'm throwing a bunch of money every month into marketing campaigns. And for a lot of tradies, they don't know how those campaigns are performing. So
Mhm.
I think definitely make sure that you're keeping that kind of business hygiene up in the background.
Awesome. Thank you for that. One quick question, right? It's a bit of a curveball question. You need a plumber. What are the top five things you're going to be looking for when you're searching for a plumber because you don't know one?
So I am probably going to jump online and search for a plumber that's relatively close to where I'm based. I'm going to check out those reviews online. I'm going to make sure that he seems credible. I always want someone that's been around for a little while. So I'm going to have a look. Are they connected to anyone that I know? Are they connected to people in my local community? I am definitely someone that also likes to support locals. So I think
Mhm.
having ties to things in the local community are also really important. But I'm also a visual person, and I want someone that I'm going to be able to check out some of the jobs that they've done and have a look at the befores and afters and get some ideas and inspirations. So I think there are lots of things like that that you can do to make sure that you're absolutely capturing lots of people.
And I think that's a really good point, right? But it also then leads me to another point. You guys don't have to do it all yourselves, tradies. We do it for you. It's probably a lot cheaper sometimes if people like ours or ourselves get in and do stuff for you, right? Because you're going to just make yourself busier with all the stuff that you doesn't make you a lot of money.
No, and I think that's really the piece that ends up separating a lot of smaller businesses to kind of those bigger players is when they take a step back and they ask for some help and they get some support from different partners out there. It definitely makes their life easier. And you've then got someone that does this for a living, that knows things inside and out, that can give you advice on what lots of other plumbers right across Australia are doing and kind of what are some of those top trends that they're seeing.
Great. Well, thanks for spending some time with me today, Elise. It was awesome to find out a bit more about Thryv. So go and check out Thryv online. See if
No,
they're as good as what they talked about today and their online presence. I'm sure they are. I know they are
we
because I've checked them.
absolutely are.
And yeah, look forward to the next time we speak.
Excellent. Thanks
Thanks.
so much, Aaron. Have a really
Thanks.
lovely day.
Yeah, you too.